mate. We are back. How are you?
Yeah, I'm going good. Bit of a break, but yep, good now.
Yeah, well, it's Fernando's turn now. Fernando's probably going to have a week or two
Yeah,
off, and he'll be back as well. So,
right. He's got reason to. I think he's having a whole shift of life, really.
yes, we can't really go into too much about what's going on, but he's certainly due for his upgrade. I don't know. I don't know what the correct way of putting it is.
Well.
So,
We got an interesting one. We've actually had people or listeners reach out and say they like what's going on, and I asked them for input, and they've given us a couple ideas, and it actually feels good to be appreciated.
yes, we will be. Tonight's episode is all based on what you, the listeners, actually want. And as Jeremy just said, somebody came forward with a idea that they wanted to hear more about. So that's what we're going to talk about. So you'll have an idea if you've seen the thumbnail already, which I haven't actually created yet. So it's going to be interesting. So do you want to? Yeah, do you want to tell everybody what we are talking about?
First of all, I just want to say thank you to Rodney. I know your name.
Rodney.
He brought up and asked if we had heard about the Dogman.
The Michigan Dogman.
Yes. Sorry, the Michigan Dogman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a quick browse through, and it's fairly interesting, and the stories that people come across with, there's a lot of similarities, and there's also a lot of things that have been put together that are too close to not consider it.
Well, I've known about it for quite a while because I've always been interested in this kind of thing. And after Rodney came forward and said he'd like to hear about it, I sort of started getting back into it again and having a look and see if any new stuff is. And the difference between this and the Bigfoot scenario is that there's fairly constant. I mean, probably not, because the Bigfoot, there's a lot of sightings as well. But this, the Michigan Dogman, or Dogman, is there are quite a lot of reports. They're all fairly recent. Well, they're still up until recently. You know, they're all still happening, and it's still current. And actually hearing some of the stories about people who've experienced this, one, they all say very similar things, and some of the things that they say are not necessarily what you would think if you were thinking about werewolves or things like that. So it adds a little bit of credibility to it, but there's one story in particular, which I'm going to mention a bit later on, where there should be proof there, even though it appears to have been concealed.
So I'll just, when you said about Sasquatch and Bigfoot, kind of made me think, you've got these big group followings, or cult followings, you could really call it, of research teams trying to find the Yowie, Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch. And it made me think, is there actually a group for the Michigan Dogman sightings? And with a quick search, there is. It's called the North American Dogman Project.
Oh, there you go. I mean, one of the things I have, when you listen to all the stories, the difference between going out looking for the Bigfoot and going out looking for the Dogman is, I think if you're going out looking for the Dogman, you're going to need to have some fairly high caliber guns with you, because they appear to be a lot more aggressive than the old Sasquatch.
Yes. So I'm guessing that a lot of people in North America either go hunting or have guns anyway.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. I mean, the Dogman, as everybody knows it at the moment, I suppose it's a fairly recent thing. You know, there was, what's his name, Steve Cook or somebody like that. He had a song called Legend, and that was all about it. And they say that's where it all kicked off from, and that's where all these reports came from. But one, the reports were happening long before the song came out, and two, obviously he knew about it to write a song about it. So that is not the beginning of the legend. And
how silly does that sound, going, oh yeah, I saw the Dogman because I heard it on a song? It doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Oh, yeah, it was me.
Yeah, no, well, I wouldn't put my hand up to that one, but yeah, I mean, it's the description of the Dogman is pretty much just like your typical movie werewolf. Anywhere from sort of 6 foot up to 10 foot when it's up on its legs, standing upright, on 2 legs rather than all 4, and got hands instead of claws at the front. Well,
So
instead of
wouldn't
paws,
it be
it's
arms then?
yeah. I don't know what the best way to approach it is, but
It is. It's like it's like you say legs, it's arms. You say arms, it's legs. What does it matter?
well, I know we're going straight to the funny stuff here, but there are reports where they turn around and say, and I know it was a male because its male dangly bits were massive. I'm thinking, okay, so that's one of the things. If you're a dog man, you've got big gonads, and apparently somebody turned around and said, and it didn't look like a human penis. It actually looked like a dog's little red rocket. So I'm thinking,
Oh
are
my
you spending that
goodness.
much time looking at the bloody dog man's doodle rather than actually running for
But
your
don't get
life?
me
Or
wrong. Everyone's seen your dog have the lipstick. You're like, but you're not going to go and look at that one.
no. Now you can find stories galore if you look on the internet and on YouTube and everything.
How does this now go with the whole identifying as animals thing?
I've
Because that's something that's going to come into. I'm not even trying to be funny, but that's going to be something that's going to come into play to this. People are going to be like, yeah, well, I was identifying as this.
look. We're in one of the.
Exciting.
We are living in a world where somebody married an exhaust pipe
True.
and consummated it on their honeymoon.
I mean, at least the car's not going to get upset when you upgrade.
No. I'm not. Yeah.
Not getting there.
Let's get back onto the dog man right away.
But yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, you get new sightings, and who's to say it's not people doing their thing, pretending that they're whatever, well, identifying as whatever they want to be.
Yeah, but what you got to remember as well is if there have been a rash of sightings in an area of the dog man, who is the stupidest person on the planet to actually put on a dog man suit or a werewolf suit and go out where all the hunters with the big guns are?
Well, let's just say it's happened previous with the Sasquatch
Yes.
and Bigfoot.
Yes.
It's not going to stop groups of people like Johnny Knoxville and Bam Major dressing up as a lion and going into the safari.
No.
Dressing up as a safari.
Remember that.
People are going to do it.
Yeah.
You say don't press a red button, they're going to press a red button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's be honest, if I was in with a group of friends and we got really drunk, I'd be like, hey, this is a really good idea, do this.
Yeah. And you know what the funny thing is about the dogman sightings as well is this one story about this girl. She was in her 20s and she was living sort of on the outskirts. She'd lived there all of her life on the outskirts, just right on the edge of the forest and everything. And I can't remember what the forest is actually called. There's so many stories that talk about this one particular forest, and I couldn't for the life of me. If anybody's watching knows it, please put it in the comments so we all know. But she went for a walk in there like she used to do, and to gather her thoughts and be by herself. And she was in there at this one point, and she actually, she was probably, I think she was a couple of miles in or something like that. She was a fair way in.
Yeah.
And she definitely got this sense that she was being watched. Now, this sounds very much like every Bigfoot sighting that you might want to hear as well. But it wasn't until she sort of saw, I think she said it was about 50 yards away, she saw this thing behind a tree, but it was sort of in a squat down position. But then she saw it stand up, and she said it was certainly way bigger than a bear. Now, the usual kind of description of these, they are ridiculously muscly. You know, you think a linebacker, these things are like two linebackers side by side. You know, they're massive. And she said, definitely not a bear. And then she noticed the ears were standing upright. She said it had a dog-like muzzle. And even from 50 yards away, she could see the teeth. And obviously she panicked and she ran, and she found, is it called a hunter's blind? I'm not sure. You know, like a box up in the...
hunting blind, yep.
Yeah, she found one of them and ran up one of them, up the ladder, one of the wooden ladder ones, up into this box, and it was like boxed on three sides and open at the back kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she was in there, and she walked up to the little window, or crawled up to the little window, and she was looking and looking, and then she looked down. It was right there. It had come for her. And she said it was looking directly at her, and she said it had almost an evil grin on its face. And she said that thing was intelligent and it was aggressive and it was, she goes, there was no mistaking the look on its face. It was out to damage. It was out to kill. And then it sort of started jumping up to try to, apparently it could reach the bottom of the blind, but sort of like claw marks and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then it disappeared for a bit, and she sort of, because she was absolutely crapping herself. And then she said it went quiet for a while, and then she sort of shuffled away around and looked out the back, and there it was right at the back of the blind where the big open part is.
Yep.
And it was just staring at the opening, and as soon as it saw her, it went into a rage and started jumping and thrashing. And she said she could hear the tree was mounting around, and or the thing that she was in was bouncing around, and there was all sorts of smashing and clashing. And she said it went quiet again, and then when it actually had been for a while, she looked at the back and she said it was gone, but it had also destroyed most of the ladder. And she said it was all over the place. And she went back to look out the window, and it was back there looking at her again. You know what the big thing of this is? This happened in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a nighttime sighting. So she said, she goes, you know, I would think it would, she goes, to me, it was a werewolf, but obviously she said werewolves can't come out during the day. And so that gives you, I think, where they're sort of saying dogman rather than werewolf. Anyway, she said eventually it sort of gave up and it dropped down onto all fours and it went bounding off into the woods. But she said it was sort of in the direction of her house. So she stayed there for about another 10 or 15 minutes looking and listening, and she goes, and it was all silent. She waited until she could hear some birds chirping and things like, you know, the noise is starting to come back because everything went dead quiet. And when it started to come back, she said she had to pretty much hang and shimmy away down what was left because the poles were there, but all the runs for the ladders were all smashed to pieces. So she got down there and she had to do the long run because she wasn't running in the same direction as where that thing went. She didn't want to see that again. And she's never been in those woods since. And she's like married with kids and everything now. So it's been probably 15 years. And that would be a fairly scary experience.
Yeah, I don't blame. But this is why people have guns when they go into the woods.
And that, yes, if I mean, you know me, I don't have guns or anything like that. But if I was going into their environment, specifically looking for them, I would, Ace Ventura in the Predator. I'd want one of those big Gatling guns, you know.
Going back to you're saying about the song that was released, I think it was 1987 as an April Fool's joke. Now, if you look at the Michigan Dogman history, it's 1887.
That's what I'm saying.
Sightings that have been seen, and it's just like, you know, how I made it up completely from my own imagination as an April Fool's joke for a radio and stumbled my way onto a legend that goes back to Native American times.
You're talking Skinwalker, you're talking all these, you know, the Wendigo, all these different things. They're all way older, and people are just saying, well, we'll just put it down to a song, and then you can just say it's just urban myth, you know.
Yeah, and if you listen to the song, it's quite different.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's more talking than singing.
Yep. Yeah, as it is. There was a good old American one that I used to love called Phantom 309. I hate country music, but this one was a good song. So my old boss used to play it, so I'd get into work at like 6 o'clock in the morning and playing on this crappy little radio was Phantom 309. And
I don't understand it because it also says he based his song on myths and legends from around the North America.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't know about it and you stumbled across it, how were you basing it off myths and legends?
Exactly.
Some people aren't smart.
No. Don't worry about it. They're fun people to argue with. Because you can
sometimes you don't have enough paper nor crayons to get in the argument with them.
No. Now, I'll tell you another story, which now this is the one I actually remember when I was going through this one, reading this one, I actually got goosebumps because this one, you know how you say there are questionable people who've witnessed them, and then there are more credible people who've witnessed them and things like that. Now, this is a story of a couple of EMTs in an ambulance, and so automatically you would.
Status.
Sorry.
You would automatically believe them being their status in where they uphold.
Yeah. Now this one, it's in sort of two parts. So I will, and the way this story was portrayed, I'm going to butcher it up. I know that, but
Right.
they were on. Apparently, in that area, they have set areas that they do. Sorry, just getting messages through. That shouldn't be happening, but. They have set areas for
jurisdictions as such.
No. What I mean is each ambulance on a night time, they're given a roster. Okay, this area is yours. That area is yours for the night. You know, so anything that happens, except if there's a major one and they have to call everybody out. So it keeps the ambulances are then sort of stationed in those areas so that if the call comes through, they're nice and close. At least that's how I assume it from what I read. And it's about these two guys, and they'd had something to eat, and they were just going to this. Again, it was in the neck, on the edge of the woods kind of thing, and they were just driving down this road, and they saw this thing walking on the road in front of them. But it was like this, almost like how it was described as like a dead end road into like a car park area, and I'm assuming they were going to stop and have lunch or dinner, whatever you said. This was a nighttime one, this one. Excuse me. And they noticed this this animal walking. It was walking the same direction as them, and they said they were about 50 yards or so behind it. And they said, "Look at the size of it." And they actually said it looked magnificent. They were thinking it was some kind of wolf. It was on all fours, and they were coming up. And when they said, they were just creeping up slowly behind it, just to get a good look and see the actual size of this thing. And when they were about 10 yards out, they said this thing stopped and then got up onto its rear legs, standing upright. And they said, to give you an idea, now I can't remember the name of the type of vehicle the ambulance was, but they said them two in the like cockpit, in the driver's seat and everything, they would say their heads are at about 9 feet above the ground. And they said this thing, when it stood up, they were looking up, and it sort of turned one way, but then it looked back, and they got side eye, and they described them as almost like a yellowy green shine to the eyes. And the guy in the passenger seat, this is the guy who's telling the story. He was in absolute shock and mesmerized, didn't take his eyes off like that. He was just fixated on this thing because his brain couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. He's never seen anything like this before. And then there was sort of some noise, and then it just took off, and like 2 or 3 bounds, and it was gone. Mm-hmm. And they sort of sped off around and then back out, and they never really spoke about it. But the guy that was driving the next day, he goes, he never wants to do any of that again. He goes, I just want the inner city routes. And it was like that for nearly 10 years. He said they actually ended up, their team split up, and they were on different, with different partners. And then what happened is about it was 9 years. He said it was 9 years later, and they came back together. He said he would speak to him when they're in the depot and things like that. And whenever the subject was brought up, he goes, this guy would go very weird. And he goes, look, I just want you to confirm, just talk to me. You know what we saw. Yeah. And apparently he'd go white in the face. And he said this guy was never the same. And he said it took 9 years for him to open up and talk to him about it. And he said that we sat down, and he goes, and he told me his experience. So they went back to it, and he said, you were fixated on that bloody thing. He goes, and he said, as the driver, he has access to all the like buttons and the lights and all of that kind of stuff. You know, the mirrors are all set for him, so he's got vision everywhere. The guy in the passenger seat, he's just fixated on what's in front of him. And where it got creepy was he said, while we were both watching that thing, he goes, as it stood up and it heard that noise and looked back, he said, you were still watching it. He goes, I was looking in the mirrors. He said there were more of them. He said there were 4. He said there were 2 others that were on all 4s that were just walking up slowly down both sides of the ambulance. He said, and they were like a tan colour similar to a coyote. Now, I don't know what a coyote looks like, but if you guys who know what a coyote looks like, similar colour to them. Hey?
Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, I know, but that's a cartoon. I don't know how accurate that is, but you know. Anyway, and they were on all 4s, but he said even on all 4s, those things would have been, the heads would have been almost level with the bottom of the doors to the ambulance, remembering they're pretty high up. But he said that wasn't the worst. He said, as these 2 were walking up, there was another one. He said this thing was jet black. He said you could see the eye shine from it, and it was walking in behind these 2, almost like these other 2 were like pets almost. He said, now this thing, he said it had to have been at least 10 feet. He said, now the ambulance got cameras all over the place. He said, I was watching it on the cameras. And he goes, because they've got like the night vision stuff. And he actually flicked I think he called them ancillary lights or something like that. You know, when an ambulance is doing stuff to put it, and it's got the lights that shine down on the area. He lit them up, and he said this thing was staring straight at him in the mirror, and it was grinning. And he said, and as it was grinning, he just saw this big claw come up and actually grab the handle to try and open the handle. And he said, luckily for him, like all modern cars, when you drive off, the doors lock. Mm-hmm. He said this thing started to pull the handle. So whatever it was, knew how to use a handle on a car door. And then there was another noise. And then those 2 shot off in this direction. And this big black one just looked at him again. Almost a big grin. You could see these teeth. I reckon it was about 3 inches long, these teeth. And then whoosh, off it went. He said, I've been living with that. He goes, I was not telling you because you didn't take your eyes off that one in front. He goes, if you think like Jurassic Park with the velociraptors, he said, they've got one in front, which is like a decoy, while the rest of them are sneaking in. He goes, that is intelligence. And the fact they can open a handle, he goes, he doesn't know why. He goes, but he doesn't want to be anywhere near that neck of the woods ever again. And that one, if I can find the link to it, I will put it in. But I've gone through that many that I don't know if I'll find the link. But geez,
what gets me is you said in there that they had said that the eyes are a green reflection.
Yeah.
Now, generally speaking, actually, in a higher percentage of times, animals at night time that have a glint in their eyes that are green are generally prey, not predators. Predators will have a red glint in their eyes. So your sheep, cows, dogs, domesticated dogs, cats, and the likes will have green glints.
Yeah.
Foxes, like rabid dogs, wolves will all have red glints in their eyes. I don't know how it works biologically, but
no, I don't. But what was it? He said how big he reckons the eyes were, and they were massive. He used it in an American type term of something that people in America would understand, but I can't remember what it was. But the eyes were massive, and there are other stories with other people where they do say that their animals have a red glint to them as well. But most of the ones that I heard, it's like a yellow or a yellowy green kind of colour. And that's why I said if we were ever going to go looking for something like that, I would want the biggest bloody guns possible, because if they've got that kind of intelligence, it's scary. It's scary. You know, do they turn back into men like a werewolf, or are they 100% just
Well,
an animal, a dog man.
but that's where it gets into, the whole, is it the government genetically modifying and mutating things for science experiments, like the supposed Russians did with their, what was it, humans and gorillas or apes or something like that?
There's lots of different stories. And a lot of it, a lot of what they're saying about like the Dyatlov Pass incident as well, they reckon that was some kind of a military experiment, and it's one of the. I mean, there's a lot of different things that they're saying for that, and a lot of them fit, but most of them don't, which makes it really hard to pin down exactly what that is. With the Dogman, I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would classify that. Is it some kind of a interdimensional thing? Is it some sort of a hybrid? Is it, like you said, some kind of a military experiment? Because it was a movie back from the early '80s, a UK movie called Dog Soldiers. Now that is an absolute classic for anybody who loves this sort of genre of movies. It's a hard hitting, not a Hollywood type thing. It's just dirty, grungy werewolf kind of movie, and it's interesting because the first thing you'd want to do is, even with these cases, you would think the military would want to find some way of weaponizing it.
And I just found out that I could actually give the reason if there was green eyes. So from what I've just read, then substance on a predator's eyes that reflects the lights is called crystalline. It helps animals' eyes to gather light to see better. Hang on, where did it go? Because obviously light to see better in low light. Predatory animals have more of the substance than prey animals. Humans have almost none, which is why humans' eyes don't reflect so much at night. If you're using a standard spotlight that throws a yellow light, you'll get a mixture of colours from red to silver to green. A pure white light will reflect the colour of the crystalline to the surface of the animal's eyeballs. So if they are a experiment with humanoid sort of mixes, well, that'll explain why it's either green or not much at all. Mm-hmm. So that kind of makes sense on that.
Yeah. Now these stories, I mean, would you believe it? We're out of time already.
Yeah, no, I probably keep talking for another hour about this.
I think we'll cut this one in a sec, but I definitely think we will.
Definitely something that I'd like to touch back on with Fernando just to get his.
Yes. Yeah.
He may have heard something about it that we don't know.
We'll send him out into the field.
Well, worst comes to worst, I'll get Rodney to go, hey, you missed this bit.
Oh, look, seriously, I only touched on two of the stories that I've heard. You know what I mean? There are so many, and that's just to this area. Now, you've got the Beast of Brea Road and everything, which is in that area, and then just across the. Now, forgive me if I get these details wrong, but across the lake or across the water is Wisconsin or something like that. There are a lot of stories in that area as well. And the Dogman phenomenon goes further than just Michigan. But there are a lot more reports in that area, and there's been a couple that I actually read where they were talking, there was more than one, so like there's a pack of them. And there was another one where these guys were all camping, these young blokes and young girls, and they ended up getting chased by these things, and they all managed to escape, but this thing got that close that it actually tore the backpack off this guy's back. And he said as soon as he felt he was getting pulled backwards, he was just arms back, take the bloody thing, kept going, dove into the car, and they were off. And they said they were doing probably 40, 50 miles an hour, and this thing was keeping up, and they were absolutely starting to panic because they were on a dirt road, and they said 50 miles an hour on a dirt road in an area that they don't generally know is a pretty scary thing. They were panicking, not to be dismissive or cause any kind of problems, but there was a lady driving in this particular car. There was about 3 carloads of them, and they were all belting for it. And they hit the main road, and they just kept going and kept going. And he said he wanted to go back because he said his car got left there, because his keys were in the backpack, and he had to get a lift back, and nobody wanted to go back there. None of these people. So he ended up getting some other friends who would just go, "Yeah, you're talking crap." So they took him back there, and they didn't see anything then because it was obviously during the day. But also, not that that's an issue because the first story was during the day, but they didn't see anything. He found his backpack absolutely torn to shreds, and he said it was one of these thick, those thick all-weather backpacks, just ripped to shreds. He was able to find his keys and everything and get his car. So luckily for that. But the stories just keep going, and some of them sound a little far-fetched, but when you listen to the more credible ones...
When it's something that old, you got to kind of decipher between myths, truths, legends, made-up stories. It's just, there's claims that the Dogman will appear every 10 years with new sightings arriving on years ending in 7.
Yes. Yep.
So the history of the Dogman is deeply rooted in local folklore and has become a source of fascination for many, contributing to Michigan's rich tapestry of mythical mysteries.
But a lot of these cases, the times and the dates actually discount that 10-year and the year ending in 7 myth.
Well, you've got your famous dogs. This is Michigan. This is for the Michigan Dogman side of things. The first sighting was in 1887. In 1917, a sheriff was out walking and found driverless wagon and tracks in the dust. It looked like wolves had been stalking near the roadside. 4-horse team lay dead with their eyes wide open. The vet finished with the examination, said it looks like they died of fright. 1937, Paris, Michigan. That was another one. 1938, 2017, a truck driver had an encounter.
Yeah. Oh, there's more recent ones than that.
I haven't got enough. I know it's just a couple that I'd seen, but yeah, it is something that I want to come across, but not something I want to come across at the same time.
Yeah, while you're inside a tank with bloody 6-inch thick bulletproof glass, and
we can't use Killdozer anymore because they cut that up.
Yeah. No, It's such an intriguing thing, the Dogman, and I'd like to thank Rodney for suggesting this one because we can probably knock out another 2 episodes on this with more and get some actual specific cases. And if anybody that has actually witnessed something like this, please send them our way, and we'll interview them and we'll get the lowdown on exactly what they went through. We would love that.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Anyway, I think...
I can't wait for the next one. And there's a couple more that have been put forward. So if anyone does have any actual other topics they want to push forward for something they want to listen to a bit more exciting than what, than what they don't want to listen to.
Well, yeah.
Just hit us up, leave a comment, or you can contact us through Facebook pages as well.
Yeah, you can leave comments, whatever you want. Now, obviously... if we know what you guys want to hear about, we will do that because it's all about putting stuff out that you guys want to hear about, not just what we think you want to hear about.
We only got told about this like a week ago.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, it's one that I've always loved, so it was a no-brainer to get this one going nice and quick.
Well, the few that he's actually brought up have been ones that you're like, oh yeah, that's good. That one's really good.
Yeah, and to everybody, obviously. If you do like what we're doing, it would be of great assistance to us if you would like and subscribe and comment away because we do work to this silly little algorithm and we are only a little podcast at the moment, but we are growing steadily and the more people we have with the more ideas on shows, we can really step it up. So it's all about you guys. So, we've got
260 subscribers at the moment.
Yeah,
I reckon once we reach 500, we'll release some footage of Gary dancing with the Hare Krishnas. We need to get new footage because I don't think I've got any. You're safe.
Well, it might take us until Christmas to get another 240 subscribers.
That's fine.
And that will lead right into their visit to Perth and our Christmas dance.
We've got more subscribers than episodes released, so we're doing all right at the moment.
Yeah. And if you do want to see me dancing with the Hare Krishnas, definitely get all your friends to like and subscribe. And the next one after that is the video where they're chasing me down the street trying to smash me with their tambourines because I'm making too much fun of them.
Actually, let's be honest, you have been chased by them.
on that, I think it is time to go.
I think it is before we upset another whole group of people.
See you all later. Take it easy, guys.